Hey, we're going. We're live.
All right, cool. Welcome everyone. We're gonna have Jed hopefully joining us in a few minutes. He's gonna talk Aurelia a little bit. Um, just a reminder about how Brown Bag works. If you actually let me pop open the site.
Okay.
If you head over to the site, share my screen. There we go. If you head over to the site, there are several links. I mean, obviously, over Twitter, there's this meeting brown bag link. So this is for any viewers of the meeting. So if you want to look into it, view, but not necessarily participate, then we have our Slack. So if you join that, you can get the link to participate in the meeting. Again, that's just because we're limited to 10 participants by Google Hangouts. So it's just a way of making sure that only the people that really want to participate are actually going to join in there. Also, if you join the Slack, you'll get a link to this form. So if you want to volunteer to talk, request something you want to talk about, anything that we need to be doing different, please fill it out. Still, nobody has filled it out.
I have some ideas though. I think we'll
fill out the
brainstorm
form,
something.
JB. Fill out
Okay,
the form.
I'll fill it out.
Yeah, just a reminder, these are automatically streamed onto YouTube, so don't share anything that's going to get you in trouble with your employer. And JB and Jed, I see you're here. What's up, man?
Yes, I am. I'm just getting some stuff set up on my side here.
Yeah. Welcome, Jed. So Jed and I used to work together at Surge. And and we met when he was one of our then coworkers. Steve came down to New Orleans.
That's right. Yeah, Steve was originally Tallahassee.
Yeah, and you were wowed by everything here.
Yeah. Good times.
Steve wants me to apologize. He was gonna join the meeting, and then his mom locked herself out of his house. So.
Wait, what? Okay.
Yeah, she's visiting.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, that'll happen, I guess, No problem. Well, this is streamed to YouTube, right? So we'll always be able to rewatch it for posterity. So right. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that at the moment, but I guess it'll be okay.
Yeah. So you've been working with Aurelia for a little while, right? And
I have
Rob
actually.
And everything. You know the guy who put it together.
Yes, Rob Eisenberg is the creator of Aurelia, and he's actually got kind of a pedigree. He's done some work before on some other frameworks like Durandal, Caliburn Micro, that kind of stuff. And so this is definitely not his first rodeo. I did meet him in Tallahassee. I've worked with him before. He's a great guy. And so I've had some experience with the framework, and it's something that I think I'd like to share with people.
All right. Yeah. So why don't you kick it off? I know you have a whole presentation.
Yeah. Hopefully it's good. We'll see how it goes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Share my presentation. If I can.
Yeah. On the left-hand side, green arrow or green background arrow.
I'm actually looking for. It's not where it was last time. Settings.
No, if you just hover your mouse toward the left side of the Google screen or above the Google logo.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. When we tried it earlier, it was like a different version of Hangout.
Right, because it was on a call with you. So let me see if I can actually share this. Share.
Yeah, well, I figured out I'm going to close this window behind me that's just giving me a giant halo.
Yeah, you look like you're in the heavens talking down to us.
Like a Renaissance painting. He's got the little thing going on in his
head. Yeah. I think I'm just going to make a montage of all the George's different locations he works. Have we confirmed that George is not homeless?
Okay, guys, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to maximize this window and see if it will stick. Yes, it did. Okay, awesome.
Great.
And let's present. I couldn't select it because it was in like a desktop space. But all right, cool. Excellent. Got what we need. I'm glad that worked out. That would have been really bad if it just, decided to not work randomly. Oh, but you know what I've got to do now? I'm so sorry for this. I've got notes and everything, and I've got to unmaximize this. I've got to present, and then I've got to pull the notes out, and then yeah, this is not ideal actually. Got to open.
Right, working it out.
It's good practice. Yeah, it's not like professional meetup. It's virtual brown bag. We're supposed to be hacking. So if you've seen us live coding, you know that.
Yeah,
we barely know how to get this work.
There we go. I decided not to do any live coding because I thought that might not work so well. All right. Okay. Now I can see that I've got my presentation here. Excellent. Okay, so I guess today my name is Jed. For those of you who don't know me, I'm going to talk a little bit about Aurelia. It's a framework. So as developers, we are tasked with creating, the next great application, or building them, creating them, coming up with them from scratch. And sometimes it's us, sometimes it's our employers, sometimes it's our friends. But that's what we're supposed to do. So choosing the tools occasionally to build that application can be difficult. It's not always the easiest thing to choose. We're faced with a lot of options, a whole lot of decisions. Like, what do I choose? Why do I choose it? What's going to be the best in the future? And a lot of the time, making the wrong decision initially can be really costly. Best case scenario, the project is harder than it should be. And worst case scenario, God forbid, the project fails, and that's not what we want. So today I'm here to introduce Aurelia, a client application framework that covers the front end space.
So Jed, I like interrupting and talking because that's
all right.
So
that's cool.
You brought up a good point that I don't remember if I was mentioning this on Brown Bag or not, but I was talking with someone else about it. It was an old Stack Overflow podcast, and it was kind of funny. You mentioned picking frameworks.
Right.
And their point, which has always stuck with me, was that it's sort of a shame that some of the most important decisions that we make about an application happen at the very beginning when we know least about it.
Yeah,
which framework is going to fit our stuff? Well, I don't know. We don't know a whole bunch of stuff. Anyway, and it's been on my mind lately because we have some framework choices that we're like, if we knew what we know now, what we did then, maybe we would have made a different decision. But
yeah, no, it's definitely it's super painful because it's such a big decision, it's such a big step, and then, like you said, you're right. At the beginning, you basically know nothing about what's coming down the pipe, and then once you finally get to the end, you're thinking, "Oh man, I should have done this." And there are cases where, in specific scenarios, you choose something that simply isn't going to work, and you don't know until it's too late, and that's a bad situation to be in. With Aurelia, I think we've tried to mitigate a lot of that. I know. Well, I'll get into it, and we'll probably talk a little bit about a bit about it at the end. But framework decisions, framework choices can be pretty rough, and so I think hopefully Aurelia is a good one for I think most people. So I guess what we'll do, we'll talk a little bit about what it offers in terms of development. We will did that update? Okay. We will cover what Aurelia is, where it is currently in terms of the project status and etc. We'll talk a little bit about how Aurelia works, how you can use it, a little bit about how it works behind the scenes, out of the box. We'll talk about its default conventions and modules, that kind of stuff, just getting started. Then we'll touch upon customizing HTML with Aurelia, custom elements, web components, that kind of good stuff. And then finally, we'll take a look at how Aurelia can actually be flexible and extensible. And, again, you said, at the beginning, you choose a framework and then you run into a brick wall. With Aurelia, we really hope to give you a lot of power, but we also want to give you a lot of extensibility so that if you ever hit a point where you're thinking, oh man, I've hit this wall, what's going to happen? You can always, swap something else in, or you can, extend the framework so that it can do what you need. So that's basically it. I guess let's go ahead and get started. Okay. So first of all, what is Aurelia? I actually would like to ask you guys, has anyone heard of Aurelia? at all
Yeah,
in this game.
yeah. I saw Rob give a presentation. I think over a year ago, or whatever, and it's pretty good, pretty interesting. I want to see some more of it. It made me interested to see how it went because I know he was looking at doing. He was part of the Angular 2 team for a while, and they didn't
Right,
like the
right.
direction. So I feel that a lot of the stuff that was in Aurelia was like things that you probably would have liked to seen in Angular 2, but for whatever reason they decided to do different things.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, that is correct. Aurelia was well. There's kind of a history behind this. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it started with a framework called Durandal.js, which was kind of like, I guess, if Aurelia is to Angular 2 what Durandal was to Angular 1 in a way. So Durandal was the first, and Aurelia was actually planned as something called Durandal 2. And from what I understand, I think Rob met up with some of the guys from Google. They thought that, hey, we kind of we have a shared vision. Why don't we work together? And they did. And Durandal was supposed to be a set of extensions on top of Angular 2. There was a split, and so Aurelia became its own thing. And I don't know if anyone's actually heard of Durandal before, but if you've used it, Aurelia is very similar in some ways. And I'm guessing that everyone here has already heard of Angular. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean but yes.
George
so
won't stop talking about how much he loves Angular 1.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I hate you. I hate it all. I hate web development.
I'll be honest. I was an Angular guy before this, and I mean, I still. But yeah,
I'm a huge Angular 1 guy, but what you gonna do?
what you gonna do?
Yeah.
So yeah, what is Aurelia? Aurelia is a client-side framework. It's designed for web and mobile. It's just a JavaScript application framework that kind of stays out of your way when you don't need it, and I think it's pretty nice personally. It is modular. It is a collection of libraries, and instead of being a monolithic framework like AngularJS 1 was for a short time, it's actually just a collection of libraries that have well-defined interfaces and API standards. And so when you put all that together, you get kind of a cool framework. Did that slide update? I guess
Yeah.
I might have to switch. Okay. I think I'm gonna have to switch screens for it to update correctly with the. But yeah, collection of libraries adhering to interface standards. It provides single-page application functionality. It supports, the modern DOM, HTML5, and web components. However, it's also worth noting that Aurelia itself, while it is great at single-page applications, it can also just enhance existing pages without having to pull in the full framework, the whole client-side routing deal. So let's say you've got a page like some old, I don't know, MVC page that's on ASP.NET, and you want to pull in Aurelia to do one little thing. You can actually just pull in Aurelia and do something with a component without having to do the entire SPA deal, the single-page application. So it provides that functionality, but it's a little more flexible in terms of what it can do. In terms of its philosophy, the framework is actually there to serve you and not the other way around. That's one issue that I've had with a lot of frameworks that I've used. The framework kind of makes you serve it in some ways, like you've got to follow its conventions and you've got to, write code in its way. And George, I know you're a fan of React, and I think you're a fan of JSX. I can't stand it personally.
I don't like JSX. No.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, in this case, I feel like with React, you're kind of serving React. Like you have to support it. I mean, it's there to support you, but you end up like supporting it. Aurelia is not really so much like that. It's there when you need it, but it'll get out of your way when you don't. It's open source. I think one of the recent things in the news, in hacker news and development circles, not in like NBC or anything like that, but React's patents file with their licensing. Aurelia is fully open source. I don't see that happening with Aurelia at all, which is great. The code itself is simple. It's actually just JavaScript. There is very little, I guess, framework cruft that you have to put up with, like, for instance, JSX or even Angular 1, where you had to, I think, register your controllers and whatnot. There's very little, like framework-specific boilerplate, which is nice. It is forward-looking. It supports modern JS tooling like Babel, Gulp, JSPM, System.js. I'm not going to really go into what those are, but basically the JavaScript ecosystem has changed, and it is constantly changing. And Aurelia is forward-looking in that regard. It's trying to support all of that stuff, and while supporting, I guess, older technology as well. And what I like to call the ilities, testability, maintainability, extensibility. We talked a little bit about the framework extensibility, and it's nice to have that, just from a personal point of view. Code is maintainable because it is just JavaScript, because it is simple, and because Aurelia encourages you to write modular code, it becomes a lot more testable. And I guess the final thing, one of the final things, is that it is commercially backed. For me personally, if I'm writing a personal project, I don't really need that, But if you're working for an enterprise or any company, it's nice to have that through Durandal Inc. And the online community is amazing, and I will vouch for that because I am part of it. Haha.
Like, I am amazing.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to put on the quote.
Yeah. I mean, that should just be the entire presentation. So yeah, I guess the status of Aurelia right now, we are in beta 1. We are moving towards a release candidate. The feature set is there, like all the core functionality and everything. The API is stable. We're not going to pull the rug out from under you. We've actually got a good documentation solution. We're always trying to make it better. It's auto-generated and everything, but right now I think the main push is that we're trying to get more examples and more articles in there. For devs who are new to Aurelia or coming from other frameworks, other development paradigms. We actually, from what I understand, we do have a lot of applications in development and some in production, but I think a lot of them are under NDA, so it's unfortunate I can't talk about them. In terms of the community, we have an active community on Stack Overflow. A lot of the core team members and some of the community champions, they actively kind of scour that thing for new questions, and they're really good about answering. And I think the Gitter channel is incredibly active. It actually almost moves a little too fast, but the community has grown to crazy proportions. So if you join the Gitter room, you'll definitely see a lot of activity there. And again, commercial support, Durandal Inc. consulting training, it's all provided. And I think there's some commercial tooling that's coming down the line as well. Yes. So I guess the last little thing about the framework that we haven't even really gotten into yet, this is actually what we're currently working on. Performance is always a factor. I think we're looking at like load time optimization right now. We're still working on a lot of bug fixes and getting documentation, I guess, in a better way and everything. We're trying to make projects more accessible to the general developer community as well, so that it's easier to get started. And I think we're still actually working on I think a validation plugin, I think, is one of the big things. But like I said before, we are working on a release candidate, and hopefully, Aurelia is gonna hit like a milestone soon, I think. So if anyone is out there who actually wants to help, pull requests are always welcome. I think there is a COA that you have to sign, but feel free to join the Gitter channel. Feel free to do any of that stuff and come along.
Jed, I'm just gonna.
Yes.
We're at 20 minutes in, so just plan accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I started 7 minutes afterwards. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's pick it up, I guess. So the question is, how does Aurelia streamline development and make it easier? And the answer to that is clear conventions and a set of default modules, power when you need it. I'm going to talk a little bit about Aurelia's default modules out of the box. Aurelia comes with dependency injection just by itself. It makes code simple. You can inject Aurelia modules or your own services. It comes with an event aggregator. So if you want to send messages in your app and decouple your components, that's there. It comes with its own HTTP client, and it actually comes with a GitHub Fetch client too for the new Fetch standard. And this actually it's a nice thing to have, but in terms of, I think, other frameworks like Angular 1, having a wrapper around XHR and other things like that was necessary because of the dirty checking. It's actually not here. It's just a nice to have. And we have a logging abstraction as well that's provided by default. We have a skeleton navigation project that is available and that actually showcases a lot of this functionality. So, always welcome to check that out if you want to. Aurelia also has really simple conventions. It prefers convention over configuration. It is configurable, but you can get started easily. You can either bootstrap the app by convention, which I think just requires a tag, or actually, I'm sorry, it requires an attribute in your HTML, or you can do it manually if you want to have more power to do more expressive things. By default, views and view models, they just kind of live next to each other in their own folder. So if you have an HTML view and a JavaScript view model and they're named the same, Aurelia will know what to do with them. So again, it's really easy to just get started with that. They just need to share a name. It's configurable if you don't want to do it that way, but you can do it that way. Aurelia uses application lifecycle methods in its view models. So instead of having to try to figure out what events it throws, or like how do I write my code, you can easily know when things are going to run. Like, when is my code going to run? I know by looking at the lifecycle method. And what order is it going to run in? I know by looking at the lifecycle method. And finally, the binding syntax is actually very simple. I don't know if anyone has seen Angular 2's binding syntax, or I think even React's. Angular 2's syntax looks a little like Perl tried to have a baby with Lisp and insert it into HTML. Aurelia's binding syntax is a little simpler than that. And again, all of the examples of that are in the skeleton navigation repository in the Aurelia GitHub. And again, please feel free to join the Gitter channel. So I guess the next thing we're going to talk a little bit about extending HTML. I'll go through this quickly. But Aurelia can leverage web components, and you can extend the HTML in conjunction with Aurelia's binding system. So let's take a look at how something like this might work. So this is an example of a custom element. Web components are actually just HTML, and so what Aurelia can do, it can leverage these components and provide functionality. And as long as we create a custom element view model, it can hook into that. So in this case, we've got some JavaScript here that's written in ES6. We have our imports. We have a custom element decorator that tells Aurelia, hey, I want to use this view model as a custom element. And then we just have methods on there, and we have a bindable. And then when we have the view itself, the view just is more or less a custom element that uses the properties like click.trigger, speak, and then you have say hello to, and then you have this to variable that's actually referenced in our view model. And so if we want to use that, all we have to do is load our component through the require tag and then use it. Aurelia will hook it up automatically. So it's actually kind of nice, and you'll notice that there is a say-hello to.bind name.value. That .bind is an example of Aurelia's binding syntax, and it can be used with all of these custom elements that you can create. So we've seen that. I think we all know about that, and not having extensibility is not really good. It can be a brick wall in development. Aurelia is extensible, it is flexible, and it actually plays well with other technologies, which is great. That's one reason that I really like it. So let's take a look at flexibility. Aurelia supports multiple languages. At its core, it's really just JavaScript, so it can support any flavor of JavaScript. If you want to write in ECMAScript 5, you can do so. If you want to write in, If you want to write in, if you want to write in ECMAScript 5, you can use it. If you want to write in, ES 2015 or 2016, you can use the Babel transpiler to do that. If you love TypeScript, you can use it. If you don't like TypeScript, that's okay. We actually have documentation examples with and without TypeScript, and you are free to use it if you don't want to, or if you want to, or if you don't want to. I think by default with the skeleton, you'll be opted into Babel, but there are other options like Tracer, or not Tracer now, the TypeScript compiler specifically. It also supports different methods of loading, System.js, Webpack, and Require. And more loaders. I'm sorry. Oh, I thought I heard something. More loaders can actually be added, which actually leads us to
Well, I do have
this.
one question. There's
Yes.
all those different ways. What's your favorite? What's your way you like to do it?
Personally, I'm still sticking with System.js because it's a standard, it's a spec. I'm kind of betting on it in the future. I am not that familiar with Webpack. I've used it, or no, I haven't used it. I've looked at it. I'm sorry. I've looked at it, but I wasn't sure because it's non-standard. It's actually really nice. Don't get me wrong. Webpack's pretty great, but I figured that if we're gonna get browser support with time for the system loading spec, then that's probably the way to go. I'm a fan of JSPM and NPM myself. So
JSPM is so nice. I like it. I love it.
yeah, a lot of people are not so big into it, but I'm a fan. I'm checking time, George, so I know I'm pushing this along a little bit.
Oh, go, go.
Well, we have conversations. That's good too. It's more that just a
Yeah.
one-sided conversation with things.
Right.
So what about TypeScript versus Babel or ESNX or whatever they're calling it these days?
For me, a lot of people really like TypeScript. I am not a TypeScript fan. I understand what it tries to do, and actually, I like the idea, I think, but just in terms of the execution, it's never really been worth the trouble for me. Like, I've run into issues with the types. You have to keep the DTS files updated. One thing that I actually should mention, Aurelia is actually, we do support TypeScript, and we do provide, I think, libraries with every release. So the DTS files, the definition files, are always provided with every release, and so you don't have to go look for them. But still, I'm a fan of just ES6 at the moment. I like what it provides, and that's about it.
Yeah, see, yeah, another conversation we can have, George, would put down is, so, like, I know the people who've been passionate about package management system to me, JSPM is one that's come up a couple times. I don't think I've used it specifically, so it would be good to kind of discuss, like, take a look at some of these different package management systems and JavaScript and see which ones stand out and why they stand out.
Sure.
Yeah,
We
because
can do that.
I sort of just do whatever, as long as I can get my files. I hate the node require, and then I use Browserify, and this suffers from the same thing, and it was weird, and so, but, I go, man, this sucks, and then everyone I know who loves JSPM, they're just like, oh my god, it's so awesome, and I'm like, okay, how is it so awesome?
It's pretty great. I mean, I gotta say, I'm a fan. So, speaking of plugins, Aurelia is extensible, and so we actually have a plugin architecture, and not only that, we have defined interfaces for everything, and the loader that we use, that Aurelia uses, actually uses an interface abstraction. So right now we support, I think, Webpack and System.js, and you can use that with JSPM, but because it's just an abstraction, you can actually build your own loader with anything that you want. So if you absolutely really wanted to, you could build a loader that just works with regular script tags instead of like require or anything like that. And you could do that. We haven't done that, but you could do that. With the interface abstractions, what this means is that if you ever run into a brick wall or you want to swap something out for a different implementation, you can easily. An example of this is, I think, the animation library. We actually have two right now. I think there's a CSS animator and there's a velocity animator, and again, they just run on the same interface, but they're two different implementations. Logging, there's a console logging. A console logging implementation that is bundled by default with Aurelia. It's used for development logging. You can swap that with, say, like a network logger if you wanted to. You just have to write against the interface. The router is like that. The loader, I think I just mentioned that, and one that's not on the slide, but we have a dialog plugin that uses a renderer abstraction. So essentially, what this means is all you have to do is write a dialog renderer for, say, like a Bootstrap dialog or a jQuery modal dialog, and then you can have view models pop up in there if you want to. You just have to write the renderer to do it. So that's not too bad. And I don't think I mentioned this, but for the plugins, there's actually we have a skeleton navigation project that's kind of a quick getting started. There's also a plugin skeleton, so if you want to write a plugin quickly and easily, you can pull that from GitHub. And what I'll do, I think I'll show you the rest of that. So essentially, we've just tried to create a framework that is powerful and flexible, but it can get out of your way when you need it to. I know that was a very high-level introduction, but I'm hoping that if you're interested, you might check us out on Gitter. Come to our Gitter chat room, gitter.im/Aurelia/discuss. Everyone's always welcome there. We love to grow the community, and PRs are always welcome. So that's really it. I mean, if there are any other questions that you guys have for me.
How do you feel about helping me live code stuff?
Like right now on YouTube, I guess I can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'll be honest,
What do you think, George? Because I just downloaded and set it up. I got the skeleton navigation. So I figured, what the
Yeah,
heck?
why not?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. We got some time.
All right, let's get this shot.
All right, let me get rid of this.
All right, so all I did was I went to the Aurelia skeleton navigation, because what Jed said, and I looked there, and they have a bunch of options, and it was very easy for me to go, nope, nope,
Yeah.
nope. So I chose this one, the ES 2016, and so I followed the instructions. I pulled all the code down, copied it, installed. So basically, the stage we're at now is I went here, localhost 9000, all the different port number things I deal with every day.
So the skeleton
Right,
is by
right.
default a Node application, I guess.
So it's essentially what it does when you download it, and I'm guessing you're using the ES6 skeleton right now.
Yeah.
It is not a Node application per se, but it does use Node tools like Gulp, and I think it uses browser sync. So when you pull the source from GitHub, generally the first thing you're going to do is do an npm install, and then if you're using the non-Webpack solution, you're going to do a JSPM install after that. And then finally, there's a whole set of tasks in there. And actually, if you can go, can you go to the build/tasks folder? And
Sure.
Yes, and I think there's a serve task in there. Or there's also like a watch. So we use browser sync, and so that's all that brings it up on your screen. It's actually pretty nice. So essentially, through Gulp, we just provide a lot of default tasks that will kind of let you get up and started immediately. And I think it's actually also in the skeleton navigation readme.md.
So is browser sync actually the server that's running?
Yes, I mean for this, yeah. I mean it's just a development
it's-
server.
Okay. All right. That's a static file server, basically. Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't know browser sync did that. Okay.
yeah. Well, browser sync essentially it'll refresh when you tell it to, and so we have a watch task, and like whenever you change a file, it will automatically transpile that file using Babel or TypeScript or whatever. It'll just reload the page for you. So I mean, if you're gonna use this in production, obviously you won't be using browser sync, but yeah, this is just a development server that's designed to get you up and running very quickly. So you pull the skeleton, you install your dependencies, you run a Gulp watch, and you're good to go in terms of development. And just start typing. So I see you're adding a route here.
Yeah, we're just going to rock this. We'll just see if we can get it up there.
Yeah.
So this name, I assume, is what I refer to it when I say like link to something or another. Or
Yes.
what was the module ID? What is that doing for me?
So the module ID here, you'll notice that you've got files in your source folder.
Yeah.
Like you've got childrouter.js, you've got users.js. Your module ID is the file name, essentially.
Okay. So if I say
Load up that
VVV, I need to make a
ES6
VVV.js.
Yeah. Load up that ES6 module when you hit that route.
Right.
Okay.
Does it load those up asynchronously? Do you know?
Yes, actually it does.
So you
yes, it
hit
does.
that route, and then like if that module isn't loaded, it might take a second or two for it to load up.
Well,
Right, it's going to actually pull it over the wire.
Well, that's pretty cool. So it was okay. Let's take a look, and I put this link on there. Let's first get the page up, but then I want to like walk
Yeah, if you
through how
click on
that
it now, I
came
don't
up
think you're
there.
gonna have anything.
Yeah, let's watch it below up. I always like seeing errors. Oh, hey, it didn't do
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. It's like, hey, there's no view model for me to find. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's make ourselves. We need a view model, and we probably
Right.
do. We need to have a template, or can we just make a view model and spit something out?
You can if you take a look at another view model, you can see exactly. All you have to do is export a class.
Okay.
And yeah, so export class VBB or something like that, and then that's the very basics that you need to do. And as for the HTML, you can do a simple hello world. If you want to get more complex than that, then you may end up, changing your class. For right now, that constructor that I think you just removed, it's actually using an HTTP client to pull information down from GitHub. So
what happens now if I click? It still doesn't have a template, so
right, you need an HTML file in there because it's not going to find that.
Right. So
And it's you're going to need a template tag.
okay, I need a template tag up top.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the only thing that you need to do.
Well, yeah. So let's get the page, and then I want to bind to it. All right. So now let's do another one that actually binds to that title that I had. So I had a heading.
Right.
So if I went inside here,
So it actually, that's the Angular syntax. What you need to use here is the ES6 template string syntax. So it's a $, and it's the brackets. Yes. And then you can do heading. Exactly like that.
oh, look at that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's actually it's very similar to other frameworks like Angular, Ember, etc. The main thing is that we're all trying to solve the same problems, and so when you look at it that way, you'll see a lot of similarities. But I think Aurelia is very simple to get started with.
So wait, so it's template, but that's not dollar brackets. That's not like
Or dollar braces.
Yeah, dollar braces. So is this actually being parsed as a string, as an interpolated string at some point?
I want to say yes, but I'm not actually sure about that. I'd have to go look through the templating source code.
Yeah, because the point of templates is that they don't have to be strings; that they can be fully parsed.
Right.
Yeah, that makes me concerned.
I don't remember offhand. That's something I actually, I will ask in the Gitter room, but I know that it uses that syntax to stay in line with ES6 string interpolation.
Yeah.
And I think with the template tag, or actually you might be right. Maybe if it's in the template tag, that just works. I'd have to check that, but
yeah, because template tags aren't supposed to be like that's the point of them, right? So what ties this to the template? Is it just a name? Similar
yeah.
name?
So, by default, Aurelia will say, hey, I'm looking at a view model file. I'm going to find the view by the name in the same directory. So it's easy to get started with. That is configurable. I think there is it's a view locator service that you can change that with. So if you wanted to put it in a different directory, split up your views and view models, or if you wanted to do like a naming convention similar to like MVC or something where you have like I don't know VBB controller and then you have like VBB.html, you could do that. You could configure it that way. But sensible defaults just means that if you want to get started, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. With go ahead.
So. Okay. What is the import fetch at the top? Because it's not importing anything from fetch.
Okay, so with ES6 imports, and actually, George, you've used require, and I think you probably used node require.
I've used JSPM a lot. So.
Right. So if you actually don't import anything from a library that you import, it still loads the library. And so with fetch specifically, that is a polyfill that I think writes to Windows. So it's almost like requiring it without having like a var something equals require, because you're not returning anything from it, but you might want to like require Bootstrap or something, or require jQuery and have it have side effects on the window. And so that's what that import statement basically is.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't want to if you were requiring jQuery, important jQuery, you would take jQuery.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah, I guess jQuery, you would do that. That was not a general, but I think Bootstrap specifically, like, we have an import Bootstrap, and then it'll, import the, it'll load the file, and then that'll write to, I think, window variables and everything.
So I noticed there's no Bootstrap on here, huh?
It has some Bootstrap. I'm using the Bootstrap.
No, I mean, there's
places.
definitely Bootstrap.
Font Awesome didn't. Font Awesome
it is?
didn't work though.
Oh, there it is. No, yes it did. Yes it did. It placed an
Yeah.
icon when you
I
had
thought I
it.
saw you.
Yeah,
I saw
but it
Font
had
Awesome.
3 different icons. Okay, so here's what I was sidetracked while you are discussing. Let me show you something weird, and I have no idea how this is working. But like, here we go. Watch this. All right, that works, right? I close
Right.
it. Now I got another one. How's it click on one screen?
Actually, to be honest, I
Yeah.
think that's a browserify thing because I've noticed that, and
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense. I was like, why does that work?
Wait,
But,
what are you doing with Browserify though? You're not.
I have
You're using JSPM.
A browser sync or whatever.
I didn't say. I meant browser sync. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I think it actually is a browser sync thing because I noticed that a long time ago when I was playing with a test application that the Aurelia team had created. I think it was the Contact app, and for some reason, like both browsers were like syncing, and I was like, I'm not using any type of like server-side framework to do this. How are these browsers syncing when I like change contacts? And I never like really looked into it, but I think it's got to be something to do with browser sync. So that is not like really a feature. It doesn't auto like sync your browser.
Yeah, I was like,
or anything.
what?
Yeah, no, I had the same reaction. I was like, why does it do that? It's really weird. But
So here's the most of the stuff is here is me from how much experience do I have is I've clicked and I saw some code and like from your presentation. So I've got this far just by me just going, this is sort of what I feel like they would probably want me to do. Now apparently I am missing a step or I don't understand the process of getting this input value in my view model. So I'm clearly doing something wrong. I think I need like a to bind.
Let's take a look. Value.bind search text. No, that should be correct. Input type submit.
No, wait. It wouldn't be because it's not called value on the. It's search text on the class. So
Yeah.
Search text bind.
No. It's value.bind because it's the input. Yeah. So you want to bind that value to your search text property on your view model.
Let's try this.
The value property of the. It's the value property of the.
Right.
Okay. Oh, of the DOM element, not of the constructor.
Wait, say that again.
It's the value property of the DOM element, not of the class.
Right. So you bind to properties that or you delegate to, you will bind to a property that is on an element. You will, if you have an event, you will delegate to an event. Like you'll have like a click.delegate or a submit.delegate or something like that. And actually, if you go back to your...
Well, so value isn't an event, though. Value is...
No, value is a property.
Yeah.
If you go back to your HTML, actually, let's take a look at what you got here. You've got onSubmit.bind. So I'd actually like you to take a look at the, what is it? Is it app.html? I think it's, app.html.
Okay.
All right. No, I'm sorry, welcome.html. That's what I was looking for. Go to welcome. So you'll notice that if you look at that form, you have a submit, and that's actually an event. But then instead of bind, you have to use delegate or trigger. Yeah, so bind is basically like I want to hook up a property. I want to either one-way bind it or two-way bind it. But when you need to run a function or a class method, you have to use delegate. And then, so you'll have submit.delegate. There you go. Yeah.
Now here it is me thinking, can I do this?
You can do that.
And inside here, I'll have foo and
yes.
Foo. There we go. See, that makes sense.
Yeah. So pair programming to the rescue. See, I just rescued you out of that.
Why is this not working?
Yeah. Essentially, I think you'll never end up binding to like on click or on submit or on anything. You're gonna have a submit or a click or
click delegate.
Yes.
Is that better?
Yes.
So what exactly is the difference between delegate and bind again?
Delegate essentially it adds an event handler to I'm trying to think of a better way to phrase this. So there are actually three things. There's bind, there's delegate, and there's trigger. Bind will, perform like a one-way or a one-time or a two-way binding between a property on your view model and, something in the DOM, like either, like a value dot bind or something like that, or anything, right? Or an inner HTML dot bind if you wanted to do that. Now, trigger, what it will do is actually add an event listener to the element so that when you do something on that event, like click.trigger or, trying to think, click.trigger, or what was the other one that I said the other?
Submit.
Submit, yes, thank you. Or something like that, it actually listens for that event and it'll say, okay, run this function when that event is fired. But bind does not do that. Now, delegate is similar to trigger, but instead of actually putting an event handler on the element itself, it puts an event handler on the top level element, so like the body, and so everything ends up going to the body element, and it just bubbles. And it's a little better for performance, instead of having to track a lot of event handlers manually, you have one event handler that handles everything. So when in doubt, use delegate unless you absolutely need trigger for some specific reason.
Okay.
Yeah, so that onClick.bind I don't think is going to work. Well, I know it's not going to work, but
it just doesn't. I think this makes more sense because this will not do what you think it will do. Because clearly, when I did the bind, it was not.
Oh, I see what you're
didn't have the
doing.
right
Actually, yeah, because I guess what you've actually done there is you've taken that attribute, the onClick attribute, and when you do bind, you're actually binding specifically to that function. So you're eventually doing an onClick equals, the say hi, yeah. And I guess you can do that, but I suppose it's probably not.
But you
really
lose
what you wanna do.
this context, didn't
You do. I never thought about that, but I guess you could do that if you really wanted to.
All right. Well, let's hit an API. We have an HTTP thing. So
Yeah.
we're gonna see.
Do you have like
Anyway.
a CouchDB instance somewhere or something like that? Or?
Yeah, you would need a backend running that can.
Yeah. Or I mean, you
ping
can
out a public API, right? No matter.
Yeah, I mean, if you got one, yeah.
GitHub has one.
Yeah.
This is one thing we need to set up. George, is have some go-to API endpoints so we can just when we go through this, because this is what I like doing is hacking on things, because
Yeah,
people go on presentations and they're like, watch my 5-hour screencast. I'm like, I don't care. I want to code.
right. Yeah. Do you know? I mean, I know I mentioned this, but do you know of any CouchDB instances that are like public or anything like that where you can? That has a pretty decent API. It's RESTful, so you knew what the.
Well, here we're gonna do a little Twitch thing just because I was doing some stuff for a friend. That is an endpoint that will get the channels for someone. So not entirely sure remember what the channels were, but let's just go with it. All right. So how this HTTP will have my service that got injected there, but I don't know the API.
Okay, so you're gonna want to do this.http .get, I guess.
Okay.
Like it's just and just your URL essentially. URL equals that.
So we're gonna use 6 though, so we can like.
You can template string it. You can do all that stuff. Yeah.
Look at how awesome we are.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
There we go.
Ooh. That's it.
URL. There we go. So we get this now. Is it a promise I get back?
It is a promise. Yes, it's a promise. So you'll do a dot then, and then right response. And then you can set it to like a view model property or console.log it or do anything you want.
Yeah, let me see what the response looks like. This
Console.log it,
Yeah. All right.
So let's just hit followers and name. We'll just set it to whatever. We'll say Twitch user equals.
Yeah, something.
All right. So let's semicolon.
Is it possible to use without classes, Jed?
Yes. So like I said, we support ES5 as well.
Okay, but without constructors, without it calling the new function for you, could I just define like a factory?
Yeah. So you mean like through dependency injection? Is that what you're talking about? Or
Well, so because it's a class or ES5 function, that means internally Aurelia is calling new on it. Is it possible to just provide a function that returns a simple JSON object as opposed to something that Aurelia is going to call new on?
yeah, Aurelia's DI can accept factory methods, so you just have to
Okay.
tell it what to do. I don't remember offhand what the syntax for it is. Let me see if I can look that up real quick. But I'm actually just going to use the Aurelia docs for it. That's my stuff.
So I could say get is not a function. So apparently I
So
messed something up.
what's this.http?
I'm looking at library now. Give me your HTTP client. Where are you?
But why do you, yeah, I'm not sure. Why do you need to inject an HTTP client? And what is the capital H HTTP client?
It's
Is that
their library. Their
Yeah, that's actually what we export. We have a class called HTTP client that is in that Aurelia. Oh, I'm sorry, you're using the fetch client.
Well,
Yeah, okay.
He's not using the fetch client.
No, he is using the
Added
fetch
the
client.
polyfill.
It's called HTTP client. Yeah, so all right. In that case, I'm sorry. Yeah, you have to do an HTTP.fetch, and then I think you might have to configure it. I thought you were using the original HTTP URL.
I'm too
Yeah.
new to know what the original is.
I know, right? I mean, there's slight differences, but let's see. So you just do fetch, and then I think
I was looking at one. Where was I? Oh, there we go. Here's this configure thing. Okay, so I
Yeah.
can see fetch users.
right. You have to with fetch, you have to take the JSON from the response, and then you have to return that. It's a little different, but
Yeah, so it's just you have to put a dot then. If it's a fetch, then put a dot then before your dot then, and inside of it call
response.json.
yeah
Right.
response.json.
Right. Yeah, sorry, I didn't even notice the import. I was like, http.get, that'll totally work, because I use that in my code all the time.
Yeah, and this right here, that's just the overall fetch API. That I mean, it's clearly passing through something that Aurelia is shimming, but that's just the way it works. The fetch API works. Wait. Well, hold on. You don't have a domain name for your URL.
You sure
Yeah, I
don't.
already did. I set it up here.
Oh, with base URL, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at there.
Nice.
Hey, we can actually go get stuffs.
Yeah.
What on earth are you putting on Twitch?
I play games, dude.
Ugh.
Yeah, we'll play games, man. You know what I'm
What
saying?
do you put on Twitch? Oh, it's my cooking channel.
People want to watch that?
I didn't say they wanted to watch it. It's mostly for my own amusement. 'Cause my friends say things that you're just like, I can't believe you just said that, and now I had this recorded. Yeah, there we go. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I
George,
assume you can configure this in the very base of your app, so that
the HTTP client? Or,
yeah,
You could.
or you can make your own, I guess.
You can. What I generally do when I'm developing, I will usually create services that wrap the HTTP stuff. And I think, George, you were asking, like, why do you need to inject HTTP, like instead of just using it? Is that what you were asking?
Right. Yeah. Like, why isn't it just a singleton?
It is a singleton, actually. Well, it is when it's injected. The Aurelia injector, by default, everything is a singleton. You could new it up if you wanted to, but, I mean, the reason that you use dependency injection is for testability and swappability, right? So, I mean, essentially, if you want to test this, like if you were to write a test, you could pass in an HTTP stub, just because you're using dependency injection. So, I mean, it's just a good pattern to have. I mean, if you really wanted to, you wouldn't have to use the @inject syntax. You could take out the HTTP from the constructor, and instead of doing this.http equals HTTP, you could say this.http equals new HTTP client, and you could do all that stuff, but then, you're coupled. So, I mean, it's possible. It's definitely, you can do it, but there are reasons not to. So,
So one
Let's
more
make this
question.
thing a service then.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So, okay, let's do this. Let's pull out your constructor and your search, and
Well, let's make the guy.
yeah, make it first. Yeah.
So just make a name, just whatever I want to call it.
I don't know, call it Twitch service.js or something. Yeah, Twitch hyphen service because I like hyphen.
Can we put it in the same file?
You can. Yeah, actually, you can.
I want to inject it, George.
It wouldn't really be.
Well, it'd still be injecting and just
Yeah, I want to.
putting.
Yeah. I mean, you could put it in the same file. I think separation of concerns. You'd probably want to keep it in separate files. Now, that said.
Oh. All right, never mind. Go on.
Ooh, you get that cold. Don't you like that?
That's a whole thing that we can.
It's like a little separation concerns, but then also like, single responsibility principle. You drop the mic and leave the room, and you're like, that doesn't answer anything. That doesn't answer anything.
It sure doesn't, because what if you want to use that Twitch service in another view model? What?
People forget about high cohesion. Nobody talks about it, but that's one of the terms.
Now, there is one thing that I will say here. I think Aurelia will know which class to use for the view model, but I personally have never, done something like this in a view model class. So this will actually be interesting to see what will happen. All right, so you've got your constructor in here, and you're injecting the HTTP client. You've got search text.
So I sort of want to I'm thinking I kind of just want to return this promise.
Yeah, you want to return that. I was about to say that. Yeah, so just return that promise. You're good. And then up here in your, or up there.
I just copied this over because I don't remember the injecting crap.
Oh.
So I need these two guys.
Right.
All right, so if I was following this idea here, I would say instead of that, I'm going to require my Twitch service.
Exactly. And it's going to be from a local path.
So I have to do local path?
// yeah.
Okay.
And that's actually, if you want to get into that, that's actually defined by JSPM and your configuration.js, like your paths. So yeah, you're going to inject your Twitch service. And then, change your constructor, take out that
Is this injection, the order, how it works? Like, so if I had another injection, the second variable would be that?
Oh, actually, it's a single inject, and you're just going to use a comma to separate it. So it's like inject Twitch service, comma, HTTP, comma, something else, and the constructor just takes the parameters in order. Yeah, you can kill out that HTTP.
Okay, right. So this will just be this dot Twitch service dot search search text, and then I will
and then that's it. And yeah, so that's usually what I do with my services. I'll usually wrap the HTTP client. And I mean, there are reasons that you can do that because like maybe you want to cache, or maybe you've got like other stuff going on, or whatever. So yeah.
So there we go. So look at that. We
not bad.
Hacksorted the crap out of Aurelia. Have our own route.
Yeah.
We HTTP things. We injected stuff. We told George about separation concerns, so he knows more about that.
Yeah. I mean, George has got to learn.
Yeah, the cooking show starts immediately after this.
Oh, he's cooking right now. Now you're cooking with gas. Yeah. I mean, But yeah, I mean, so maybe if you guys want to, rebuild the virtual brown bag site, you can use Aurelia. That would actually be kind of cool. I think the community would be cool. Happy to see that. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, I mean, I guess, like I said before, we always love having new members. So come on out to the Gitter chat room, gitter.im/Aurelia/discuss. My name is Jed. For again, those of you who don't know me, you can tweet to me at Jed_iyoung if you have any questions about Aurelia. If I can't answer them, I'll find someone who can. I'm also on, you can find my GitHub. Everything's under my name. Like, I'm not really interesting. I don't have, like, a super cool handle or anything. It's just Jed iyoung. So, that's essentially it.
Hindsight, I think that's actually a very good thing.
Rookie one.
Right. But I sort of just pot committed on that. And then at this point, I'm just like, I'm too old to change.
Right.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Jed. This was great.
Yeah, I hope it was informative. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
All right.
Great.
Thanks a lot, Jed.
All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Take it easy.